Notice how, in my plot description, it sounded like things are always actively happening in The King of Thieves, as opposed to prodding along for almost its entire run. Basically, as the dreary organ player, Tim Curry wasn't wanted until the Beast transformed and fell into depression, so he does everything in his power to make sure Belle doesn't cheer the Beast up with a Christmas celebration. And when I say power, I don't mean that in the figurative sense. He can summon music notes as projectiles and conjure up illusions. Why can he do that? Cause he's CGI organ Tim Curry. And what's funnier than that is, even if you think about it for a second, his reason for staying a living object doesn't make much sense. So you're not appreciated at your job. Why not go get a job somewhere else? The man's got natural charisma spewing out every orifice. Honestly, I could spend more time going in depth on the details surrounding CGI organ Tim Curry's late 90s CGI lips than I ever could about the movie in question. I could go on for hours about Tim Curry and his luscious CGI lips! But the music sounded nice, but paying attention to the lyrics reveals that
they're not like you and me, which means they must be evil. We must turn them from the war.
Yeah, it's not good. And here's the thing, unlike Pocahontas, where they straight up say, they're different from us, which means they must be evil, Lion King 2 is more able to convey this thing they call subtlety. To repeat, Lion King 2, Simba's goddamn pride, has a better, more cohesive allegory and representation of hatred without being ham-fisted than the movie literally about that exact thing. Better yet, if you weren't gonna tell her, why would you let her know that she can talk to fish and crabs and shit like that? Did you think she'd never question that? Or at the least you didn't think that knowing she can talk to fish, she would try talking to others? Or even more at the least, did you ever consider that as long as you lived by the ocean, no matter how big the wall you might build,
ooh, that's kind of small,
she'd still find a way to get to it? Did anyone think this decision through at all? But she learns to be herself, and what if Jacques, the mouse, decided he wanted to be a human for a while so he could help out Cinderella? Not the most engaging stuff. Lilo and Stitch find an experiment and think about what its best purpose is, Jumba and Peaksley provide comedic relief, Bubbles and Nani yell at Lilo for going off to do dangerous shit, and the new villain Dr. Hamsterville yells at Gantu for being an idiot or complains about being short. Cycle, rinse, repeat. The only other reason he's there is to give a deus ex machina for why the princesses don't have to marry politically, and that makes me wonder why Mulan couldn't have come up with that simple idea beforehand. What do they do exactly? They're mean, they mess with the main characters, they kinda rough up Zugor's home and say they'll do more, but then they don't cause the mom character falls in love with Zugor, and that's the end. Something consistent throughout each of the segments was the number of callbacks to the Emperor's New Groove, and not clever ones either. Remember when Yzma pulled up her skirt saying, "You probably didn't expect this," and everyone winced? What if we just did the exact same joke in the exact same way? How about we do a callback to Yzma's original plan of turning Kuzco into a flea? How about we bring back the angels from that one scene and have them show up for no reason several times? How about when Kronk said it was all coming together? How about that? And Kuzco pretty much isn't in the movie at all, but the writers, for whatever reason, still thought it was necessary to have him come in and commentate once every 20 minutes and then get a brief cameo at the end. He has no reason being here besides this being a sequel to Emperor's New Groove and serves as absolute filler, adding nothing at all. If you want him in the story, put him in the story. Okay, so tell me, what would your first thought be going into a direct-to-DVD Disney sequel film entitled Cinderella 3: A Twist in Time? You'd assume it'd be the most utter shit disaster of a cash grab you'd ever seen, right? But no, this movie is actually really good and I like it a ton, maybe even more than the original. That prince would never be told to not go down the stairs and then jump out the fucking window and climb down. He's oozing with, well, charm, and he's voiced by the same guy who did Prince Eric in Little Mermaid, and you can definitely feel some of that performance in this. And come on, how could you hate a guy with this line?
But the talking mice say she's the wrong girl.
Have I mentioned how funny this movie is? Because it's way funnier than it has any right to be, and I have no idea how that happened. So how does the film hold up in retrospect? I'll tell you this much, it's more worth remembering than most of Disney's Dark Age. The film stars Mrs. Brisby, they had to change her name for copyright reasons, a widowed mouse with 4 children who needs to move her family before they get killed by a farmer's plow. She can't get away though because one of her children, Timmy, is sick with pneumonia and can't get out of bed. So she has to go on an adventure looking for help from the Rats of Nim, who her husband Jonathan was associated with, meeting several interesting characters along the way. Ha! You get it? They used tail in the name, but it's not T-A-L-E tail, no, it's spelled the same way as, a mouse's
tale.
You've got the kid lost in a huge old-timey city that meets a big cast of characters in search of his family. The reason he got separated from them in the first place was due to his own selfishness and naivety. And a third thing that'll come up when I'm reading this off in the script. Fucking pass Braxton, that fucker. By God, Fievel is a likable main protag, but his voice actor cannot sing for shit. And you know, at first it's charming, but when you grant him 3 musical numbers to do it, the novelty kinda wears off and becomes annoying. I can still follow the story along and understand how it develops over the course of the film, but then there are moments like when Charlie and Anne-Marie fall into a sewer and have a musical number with a singing alligator that's also got a tribe of mice? Like, what the fuck is happening? I know Nostalgia Critic coined it as a popular term for a scene with no relevance to the plot of the film that shows up out of nowhere and ends just as abruptly, but the alligator actually comes back at the end of the movie. He's the one that kills Carface by eating him and stops Charlie from dying. He's integral to the story now, and by the end of the film, we don't even know his name. Why is he there? What was his story? Why did the crew decide to hand him a big parody-type Broadway show-stopping number? I don't understand. Oh, I wonder who the villain of the movie could be. Maybe it's the guy in the Dracula cape with a monocle in his eye that hates the sun and spoken word sings opera about it to a choir of owl sidekicks.
And with what do you suppose he turns on the Duke? What, Master? A flashlight.
Unfortunately, they never sing a song over a minute long in the film because they're all so comically bad and on the nose they become hilarious. You know what, actually, I take it back, I love this guy. It might be for ironic reasons, but he goes from unfunny failed attempt at a satire to a mediocre genuine attempt at a villain, all the way back around to becoming a stupid bad guy that's so stupid he's entertaining. In previous Blue films, when there were bad songs, I didn't want to listen to them, but the Dukes are just so incredibly stupid and simplistic in a fun way that I loop around to adoring them. They sing about the most obvious, minuscule shit that has no reason to be sung about considering it's already been stated as much or visually conveyed in the story, but their inclusion is so funny I don't mind. Like, come on, how can you hate a song that goes, Twiddly-dee, they're running out of batteries, ha ha ha, ha 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 ha, ha ha ha, ha ha, no batteries. And that's the whole thing. It lasts 19 seconds and that's all the time it needs. Apparently kids got bored of the longer numbers so they were shortened, and that's dumb. Let the Elvis Rooster sing, you bastard children! That's a line I never expected to say. I'd rather watch Rocky Doodle than Dogs. Could have been higher, but unfortunately, those test screenings also made it so the chicken Goldie was less sexy. And if this is the toned-down version, I can only imagine how she looked before. How about her I Am song with the farm animals that's explicitly meant to describe what her whole character's about? Well, from that, we can get that she's short, she wishes she knew other short people, and nope, that's it. All she does is tell us the obvious. Maybe her personality shines in the romance she has with the fairy prince Cornelius. No, he never gets fully formed character traits either, so he's kind of a block of wood. And Thumbelina is the same, so I guess you could make a case for why they're meant for each other, but if you rub 2 blocks of wood together, you get a fire. And that's how my feelings went for whether or not they'd end up together, crashing and burning. Okay, take that, and multiply it by 6. Remember how I called the Duke of Owls an on-the-nose villain? Gnorga is so on-the-nose in the least entertaining way possible, she's gone up the fucking nose. All she ever talks about is how she's mean and grumpy and hates flowers and laughter and wants to turn all she sees to stone using her black thumb. No subtlety, nuance, charm, originality, humor, or wit, but I wanted her to do it all anyway. We have the displeasure of focusing on Hubie, an annoying, whiny, fake philosophical outcast with an inconsistent stutter that wants to propose to a girl, Marina, but can't find the courage to, or I guess you could say, he doesn't have the stones. Not to mention he's got fierce competition from another macho penguin Drake who, Jesus Christ, on a bike! I thought Goldie was gonna be the most sexualized bird in a Don Bluth production, but goddamn, those are the biggest titties I've ever seen, and fully uncensored no less. Blue, you horny devil you. Where was I? Sorry, I was hypnotized by male penguin knockers. Side note, Rocco was the one saving grace of the movie. I love his design and way of constantly telling Hubie to shut the fuck up. I didn't have anything else to say about the film, so I thought I'd slip that in before moving on. Actually, I just realized, the song choices fit so well with the film, I kinda summarized everything else I had to say in the music section. Rasputin's a cool, menacing villain, and additionally, his whole thing of falling apart at the seams was an interesting touch. Anya's friendship with the duo and eventual romance with Dimitri was super well paced, and he was a better love interest than any Bluth & Co. had written before, by being his own character that was flawed, but selfless during the times he needed to be. The story has underlying complex emotional theming that's hard to come by in other films of the same nature. All around, it was a superb movie, and it proves that Bluth is able to take criticism to heart and make improvements to evolve his art. All you need to do is look at Thumbelina as a reference point between the two and see all that was done to create a more coherent, original product that took inspiration from Disney, but not them alone. So it has a completely different flavor worthy of note on its own. I know for some the historical inaccuracy is too much to get over, but I can very easily separate fiction from reality, seeing as I'm not a baby nor Redditor. Other than the obvious bombs to stay away from, most of his films have gotten the sequel treatment and beyond. Of course, Land Before Time has 13 sequels plus a TV show, but it goes way further than that. All Dogs Go to Heaven got a sequel with Charlie Sheen plus a TV show plus a weirdly good Christmas special. American Tail got 3 films plus a show. Secret of NIMH got a sequel with Ralph Macchio and Eric Idle that's gotta be the weirdest one by far. Yeah, weirder than the American Tail sequel where Fievel becomes a cowboy. He's not a super fascinating, multi-layered character or whatever, but I wasn't going into Bartok the Magnificent looking for that, and if you were, fucking, touch some grass, man. I review cartoons for a living and even I can tell you that.